Right, so we've been multiplying these polynomials, and like we did in the last video, and there's just a few that are sort of like special products, special forms that are easy to recognize sometimes, and so that's why this is in its own special section. Maybe when you were in high school you learned the acronym FOIL for multiplying those polynomials, and we already know how to multiply polynomials. We did that in our last video. So, and not everything is two binomials. Sometimes we might have one binomial times another polynomial that's 3 or 4 terms. And so that's why I don't really go over FOIL a whole lot, just because it only works when it is two binomials. And we already know that we take the first term of the first binomial and multiply it by everything in the second polynomial. And then we take every term in that first polynomial and multiply it by every term in the second polynomial to multiply these out. But there are a few that you might want to recognize, and so I'm going to go over those real quick. But first, our joke of the day. A farmer counted 196 cows in the field, but when he rounded them up, he had 200. Get it? Rounding numbers. Okay. So the first thing we're going to learn is sum and difference of two terms. So if you have the exact same terms in your binomials, so notice here in our first example we have the formula a plus b and a minus b. So a and b are both in your binomials, and then one just has a plus sign and one has a minus sign. Well, that is automatically going to multiply out to be a squared minus b squared. And so you can learn that shortcut if you like. If not, you can still just play tag. It always works. So whichever way you want to do it. So again, we know for this example, I'm going to do it the long way and then just show you how you end up getting that a squared minus b squared here. So we're going to take the first term, x, and we're going to multiply it by both terms in the next binomial. So x times x is x squared. X times that negative 5 is negative 5x. All right, and remember, next we're going to take the second term, the 5, in that first binomial, and we're going to multiply him by everything in that second binomial. So x times 5 makes positive 5x. And then 5 times the negative 5 is minus 25. Well, notice what happens here. Because you've got those opposite signs in your original binomials, you've created a negative 5x and a positive 5x. Well, that comes out to be 0. Those will cancel each other out, leaving you with just that x squared minus 25. And so that's just a shortcut. So if I had another example that was like x plus 4 times x minus 4, well, you could just go ahead and recognize that to say, well, that answer is going to be x squared minus 16. So just throwing another example in. And so on. You could do any of those. Okay, so what if it's not just a simple one like x? Well, remember, you can always just use your tag method if you want to, and we'll do it the long way, but you'll just see how it's going to. Maybe you can go ahead and look at that and think, well, we should have 4x times 4x, and that should end up being 16x squared, and the 3 times the negative 3, that should end up being 9. But let's do it the long way and see if that's what we get. So 4x times the 4x gives us 16x squared. 4x times the negative 3 gives us negative 12x. Take the second term in that first binomial. Now multiply him by everything. 3 times 4x is positive 12x, and 3 times that negative 3 is negative 9. Well, again, notice those are going to cancel each other out, leaving you with 16x squared minus 9. So we guessed the correct answer the first time. We didn't have to go through all this. But that only works when it's a positive and a negative and with the same A and B type terms. Okay, so can you look at this one and say, well, what should this end up being? Give you a second to think that, and then we'll work it out. Well, hopefully you said 4x squared minus 49y squared. And that should end up being our answer. But let's go ahead and multiply it out just to see. 2x times 2x, 4x squared. 2x times 7y is that negative 7y, negative 14xy. Then we have our second term in the first binomial, multiplying him by everything. That gives us positive 14xy and then negative 49y squared. Well, notice again, these cancel each other out, creating 0. What do you have left? We had the answer we originally guessed at, 4x squared minus 49y squared. So perfect. Okay, so notice the difference versus squaring a binomial. Now these are going to have the same sign, so that's not how this one's going to work. So this only works that sum and difference of two terms. So one has to be a plus, one has to be a minus. So when we square something, remember if we had 3 squared, that means to write that 3 twice, 3 times 3. So if I'm going to square a binomial, that means a plus b. I'm going to write that thing twice, and then I have to multiply it out. Well, there is a shortcut, and I do not expect you to memorize this equation. No one probably does, really. But this automatically multiplies out to be this, a squared plus 2 times ab plus b squared. Okay, so if you ask me, that formula is a little bit more difficult to remember than the first one, so it's easier to just multiply these things out and play tag. But if you recognize that it is a square of a binomial and you want to do it this way, that you're more than welcome to. All right, so for an example, we have x plus 10 squared. Well, again, that means write it twice, then multiply. So don't forget that. X plus 10, we're going to write it twice, times x plus 10. Okay, just like we did before. Take the first term, multiply it by everything in the second term. He's got to play tag. He's got to touch everything over there. So x times x is our x squared. X times the 10 is positive 10x. Second term in the first binomial, the 10. Now he gets multiplied. He's got to go touch everything in that second binomial. So 10 times x is another 10x, and 10 times the 10 is 100. And always we can join together those two terms. Now notice those are not going to cancel each other out because they are both positive. So final answer, x squared plus 10x plus another 10x gives us 20x's plus 100. Okay, so then look at our formula here, just to review that. The a squared, so that's our x squared here, 2 times a times b, so 10 times x times 2 gives us that 20x, and then the last term squared is 100. But like I said, I don't expect you to memorize that formula. I probably don't memorize it either. Okay, so let's try another one. 2x minus 9 squared means to do what? Write it twice. Two x minus 9 times 2x minus 9. Okay, try to multiply that one out, see what you get, come back and check your answer. second term, multiply it. Negative 9 times negative 9 is positive 81. Okay, let's join our middle terms. 4x squared, negative 18 plus another negative 18 makes negative 36x plus 81. And that is your final answer. So hopefully you'll just, the main part on those is when they're written as a square, make sure you write it twice and then multiply it out like normal. So good luck on that.